Welcome back to the Touchdown Black and Gold vlog, where we discuss, celebrate, and honor all things college football across the entire landscape, the traditions, the pageantry, the camaraderie, but with a special emphasis on the black and gold squads of the Missouri Tigers and the Iowa Hawkeyes. I'm your host, Blair Parks. Holla at you, boy. We are entering a pivotal week 12. That's right. It is already week 12 of college football season 2021. Practically over, but there is so much to play for here at the end. The finish line is in sight. It is a sprint to the end. There is so much to play for in this pivotal week 12. And this is my week 12 preview episode, and there is so much that I have to share with you today. Before I continue, always like to thank you for your time, your support, your viewership, your comments. I appreciate everything that you've helped me with along this journey this season. I would appreciate any likes, subscriptions, shares, anything. Let me know how I'm doing. Let's get the word out there. Let's gather all black and gold fans as one together, but also every college football fan, near and far, from coast to coast, east, west, north to south, and right in the Midwest, where I reside, here in the Show Me State of Missouri. But wow, what a great episode I have lined up for you today. I'm giddy, I'm excited, even though, as I stated, week 12 means the regular season will quickly be at an end. A little bit of seasonal depression will set in, but as I heard plenty of times in Florida last week, there's a great, big, beautiful tomorrow. That's how it is. So I have that to look forward to. But bowl season will be here, which is right there with Christmas time. So it is the dual most wonderful time of the year. I have a few segments to share with you today. But before I go into my key matchups, which I do every week with you during the preview shows, wanted to once again kind of elaborate on what I just stated, how there is so much to play for here in week 12. We have conference races that are coming down to the wire. Also, there's playoff implications, who's in, who's out. It is always better to lose early in the season compared to late in the season. We have the Heisman hopefuls. They have a couple more games, or maybe a third if they qualify and play in their conference championship games in a couple weeks. They have a few more chances to impress the voters at the New York City Athletic Club. And also for coaches. I mean, I've elaborated with you last several weeks during my midweek shows, the coaching carousel that is going to transpire during the off season. I mean, hell, it's already going on right now, to where, hey, do you go into the off season as a coach that has a lot of leverage to where you finish on a high note? Or are you somebody who's going to limp to the finish line and may not be as attractive as you once were? For example, perhaps James Franklin. Penn State sits there with 4 losses, at this point. So he was very coveted. And I'm sure if he wanted to go to another position, he absolutely would be on the short list at USC or LSU. But then again, if they suffer one more loss, is that something that the fan bases would really want at those locations? Time will tell. We'll see what plays out. But there is so much to play for. And to kind of further break this down, let me just break down some of these conference races that we are right smack dab in the midst of, that are going to come down to the last couple weeks. The Big 12 race, even though Oklahoma did suffer their first loss last week at Baylor, they are out of the playoff rankings top 10. Most of you would probably then believe that, you know what? There's no need to pay attention to the Big 12 unless you're a fan of one of those teams that reside in the Big 12. But this is a fascinating race, so much intrigue in this conference. You have 3 teams that are vying for 2 spots to play in the Big 12 title game in 3 weeks. Oklahoma State is sitting there with 1 conference loss. Oklahoma also has 1 conference loss. Those 2 teams meet next week in the Bedlam rivalry game, one of my favorite rivalry games. And you have Baylor, who does have 2 conference losses, but has the tiebreaker against Oklahoma, but they lost to Oklahoma State. So there's so much intrigue in the Big 12 right now. And if you watched yesterday's episode, my Week 12 power rankings and my reaction to the updated playoff rankings, I did share with you, I still believe there's a path for a Big 12 team to still potentially steal a playoff bid. Watch yesterday's episode and I'll further break that down for you. Another one is in my conference, the Big 10. I mean, there is just so much intrigue in both the East and the West races. I mean, in the East, we have a huge matchup this week. Ohio State hosts Michigan State, number 7 versus number 4. Basically going to play off as a potential elim game for the East race, but also potentially for a playoff bid, especially for Michigan State, who does have that 1 loss against Michigan head-to-head. And in the West, I mean, with my Hawkeyes, our Hawkeyes, they're right there in a big-time race with Wisconsin. Currently, Wisconsin they're kind of sitting in the proverbial driver's seat. They have 2 conference losses, but they did dispatch our Hawkeyes a few weeks ago. I was also sitting there with 2 conference losses, so Wisconsin wins out. They go to Indianapolis to represent the West. If Iowa wins out and Wisconsin trips up, Iowa goes to Indy. I looked into this, and I thought Minnesota also mathematically had a chance, but this is what it comes down to. If both Iowa and Wisconsin win this weekend, then Minnesota would be eliminated even if they beat Wisconsin next week in the rivalry game for Paul Bunyan's Axe because of division. It would come down to the tiebreakers would then be division record, and a better division record would be Wisconsin. Wisconsin's 2 losses have been crossover games against East Division teams, Penn State and Michigan. So a lot of intrigue in the Big Ten. I mean, so much to play for still. In the ACC Coastal Division, and that actually will be taken care of, and that'll be decided this weekend. The matchup is happening in a couple days. You have Pitt and Virginia. They meet this Saturday. Pittsburgh has a 1-game lead on Virginia, so it comes down to potentially winner take all in this matchup for the ACC Coastal Division. And the Mountain West Division, I love saying that, by the way. In the Mountain West Division, San Diego State has a 1-game lead on Fresno State. They both have tough matchups this weekend, but Fresno State does have the tiebreaker against the Aztecs of San Diego State. So Fresno State wins out, and San Diego State trips up. Fresno State wins the division. There is so much intrigue in the Mountain West. Great conference. And also in the MAC East Division. And right now, kudos, a little round of applause. Last night, Northern Illinois University, NIU, the Huskies, they won at Buffalo to clinch the MAC West Division title. Well done, Huskies. Represent the land of Lincoln. But the MAC East, right now, Miami has a half-a-game lead on Kent State. Miami of Ohio, that is. They won 2 nights ago. Kent State plays Saturday, so they need to keep pace with Miami of Ohio. Awesome race there in the MAC. And the last one is Conference USA. Big-time game. Going to be one of my key matchups. UTSA, who's sitting there undefeated, number 22 in the nation. They host the UAB Blazers, coming off a big win last week over Marshall. Even though they're undefeated, UTSA only has a 1-game lead on UAB. So the Cinderella season comes to an end, but also they lose potentially the chance to get to the Conference USA title game. Huge intrigue, huge. But I'll tell you one conference that doesn't have any intrigue here in Week 12 is the SEC. It basically has been decided. Georgia has wrapped up the SEC East than they did weeks ago. Right now, Alabama hasn't officially wrapped up the SEC West, but they'd have to lose their last 2 games for that to happen, and I don't see that happening. So there is no real intrigue in the SEC. There's only one matchup this week of ranked opponents in the SEC. This is the every year the so-called layup week for the SEC powerhouses, which this has got to end. When Oklahoma and Texas finally start playing in your conference, which we don't know what year that's going to officially happen yet, but they're going to have to eliminate these cupcake games at the end of the season, and you're going to have to go to a 9-game conference schedule. You just have to do it. I understand, once again, I said in the opening, it's always better to lose early than late. So I see why the SEC has done this for all these years. You have these FCS programs, layups in week 11, 12, or 13. I understand. And also to rest players who might be banged up. It's kind of ingenious. It is. But come on. This has got to stop, and it will. For example, here we go. Alabama, like I said, they have a good opponent. They play a ranked Arkansas squad. Texas A&M, who's ranked, they play Prairie View A&M. I have no idea where the hell they're located, what their mascot is, but yeah, maybe it'd be better just to do a inter-squad scrimmage for A&M this weekend. Are you going to get more out of that rather than playing Prairie View A&M? LSU plays ULM, University of Louisiana Monroe. Well done, LSU. Another layup potentially. Ole Miss, well, Ole Miss plays Vandy. I mean, that's pretty close to being a layup, even though it is a fellow Power 5 and SEC school. So that could maybe even be a layup game. Let's see, what else we got here? Oh, Mississippi State. The Bulldogs, the Air Raid Bulldogs under Mike Leach, play a tough FCS squad in Tennessee State. Well done. Let's see. Oh, and Georgia, number 1 team in the nation. They have Charleston Southern FCS school. Well done, Georgia. Let's see. And in Kentucky, they play New Mexico State. Wow, that has got to end, and it will. It has to very soon when Texas and Oklahoma join you. I mean, I can't see that continuing. Oh, and Tennessee. I can't let Tennessee off the hook. They play the South Alabama Jaguars. So at least they're playing a Division I opponent, but a team from the Sun Belt. So great. Terrific. Good for you. So no intrigue in the SEC. So that's why I wanted to bring you up to speed on why you need to be paying attention, not just to the playoffs, but to some of these conference races are full of excitement and drama. Now what I'd like to do is, as I usually do, I'm going to share with you some of my key matchups that are going to help solidify playoff contenders, conference winners, losers. But the other thing that I forgot to mention, why it's so pivotal for a lot of teams in Week 12 is just to try to get to that 6th win to secure a bowl bid. I mean, that is huge to get those extra practices, get a +1 game for growth, development. There's a lot on the line for the teams who are sitting there with 5 wins or 4 wins with 2 games to play. Huge. So much to play for. So without further ado, here are some of my key matchups for Week 12. First one, number 10 Wake Forest travels to Clemson. Can Wake continue their Cinderella season and blitzkrieg through the ACC? You know the old saying, to be the best, you got to beat the best. And for recent recent memory, Clemson has been the heavyweight of the ACC, multiple national titles, playoff appearances galore. So even though Wake is off to a great start, they do have 1 loss. I'm sorry, they are no longer undefeated. But that 1 loss came to North Carolina, which is an ACC team. But that was considered a non-conference game, so have fun figuring that out. But yes, so I think this would be a good prove it kind of game for Wake Forest, because you really have to beat the best to be considered the best. So right now there still are a lot of naysayers, people who are punting to say they aren't as good as they are ranked. The ACC is just that down and bad. Big time game for Wake Forest to prove it, to get the win. But also you've got Clemson here who is trying to win their 4th straight. So maybe they've turned things around a little bit on the offensive side. We all know how good that defense is, but let's see who comes out on top for that big matchup. Next one, already mentioned it, huge in the Big Ten. This one could have very easily been my spotlight game of the week. I thought long and hard about it, but I picked another game. This is number 7 Michigan State at number 4 Ohio State. A battle for Big Ten East heavyweights for supremacy, with not only Big Ten East title implications, but with potential playoff implications on the line. Will Ohio State continue to do Ohio State things and remain the class of the Big 12 as they have been for way too long? But kudos to them. They've deserved it. They outplay everybody. That's just the way it is. I have no hate or disgust in my heart for the Ohio State University. Or Michigan State, can they pull arguably their biggest win of the season? That would be a much bigger win than over their in-state rival Michigan if they can go to the Horseshoe and pull off the victory. Right now they are a 19-point underdog, which that's a lot of points. I'm not a betting man, but if I was, I would maybe think of taking Michigan State to keep it well within 19 points. That's just me. I'm not telling you to do that. Don't go out there and put a second mortgage on your house and say, Blair told me to do it. Don't put that evil on me, Ricky Bobby. I don't need it. I don't need that at all. But the winner keeps their hopes and dreams alive, and the loser suffers an absolute crash and burn. And I think the main reason why I also didn't pick this game as my spotlight game is potentially, if things play out the way that I think they will and can, Ohio State wins this week, and then Michigan takes care of Maryland in Ann Arbor, then that will be the spotlight game next week. The game that hasn't meant anything for far too long, to where that is going to then determine the Big Ten East title, who gets to Indy, and then who potentially is looking at a playoff bid if they win the Big Ten title. So huge game potentially next week in Ann Arbor. But first things first, take care of business. Next one in the Big 12, number 11 Baylor travels to the Little Apple, travel to Kansas State to Manhattan to take on the Wildcats. And I ask, after their big win last week over Oklahoma, can Baylor sustain their success following that big win over the Sooners? Or will the Little Apple strike again? So many teams have gone into Manhattan, Kansas, taken the Wildcats lightly, and have left with a loss. Just ask Oklahoma. Iowa State has several years. This is a tough place to play. One of the most underrated atmospheres in all of college football. Always their fans show up. They're into it. So Baylor, maybe they make my trap games list for this week. Stay tuned and find out later this episode. It's a trap. Have to wait and see, but big time tilt there in the Big 12, especially if Baylor wants to keep pace with Oklahoma and Oklahoma State. Next one, big one at the non-Power 5 level. I've already mentioned it. The conference race in Conference USA. UAB traveling to number 22 and undefeated UTSA, the Roadrunners, a team that I've been rooting for right out of the gate. I'm glad they're getting the respect they deserve. Can the Roadrunners stave off the upset-minded Blazers, especially off that big win last week at Marshall? We are Marshall. That was one of my picks last week. I got that one wrong. That's a big win for UAB, for the Blazers. So can they pull off another upset and potentially shock the world? And then everything would come crashing down so quickly for the Roadrunners. I mean, right now they are one of only 3 remaining Division I football teams. You have UTSA, Georgia, and Cincinnati. That's it. 3 remaining undefeateds as Week 12 is upon us. So big time matchup there in Conference USA. Last one, my spotlight game of the week, because we haven't had one, I believe, in this conference within conference opponents. My eyes turn to the West Coast, shake it Cali, that I'm looking at number 3 Oregon traveling to the mountains of Salt Lake City at number 23 Utah. Huge battle of right now 2 teams that are leading their respective divisions in the Pac-12. Oregon in the north, Utah in the south. Figure that out geographically. I mean, maybe I missed something in school, but yeah. So Utah in the south. So these 2 heavyweights meet up in Salt Lake City, and obviously a huge high-stakes game for Oregon. Currently, they sit number 3. They would be in the playoff if it started today, if those bids were handed out. If they trip up at Utah, there goes that. And more than likely, we could see this matchup again in 2 weeks in the Pac-12 title game. So this is going to be a good precursor to what that game is going to be. And you know me, I've been very high on Utah all year. I did pick them to win the Pac-12 preseason. Charlie Brewer didn't really work out, the transfer QB from Baylor. He has since left the program. Cam Rising, the backup, he has been an absolute messiah. They're playing so much better. Have to wait and see how I pick this game, but this is going to be an entertaining, big-time physical game at altitude. So that's my spotlight game of the week. See how we pick them here in a little bit. But next thing I want to share with you is give you a little bit, like I do every week, a little bit of initial analysis and commentary and thoughts on our black and golds. And this week, they are both in action. Last week, they both picked up victories. It hasn't happened much this season. Missouri picked up a big-time win at home over South Carolina. Iowa defeated their rival Minnesota in Iowa City, brought home the bacon, kept Floyd of Rosedale in Iowa City for at least another year. This is a huge weekend for both our black and gold squads. I'm going to go ahead and start this week with Iowa. Number 17, Iowa. We host Illinois this weekend. Illinois will be without Coach Bielema Burt, who unfortunately this week it was reported had tested positive for COVID, a breakthrough case, so he will not be there coaching. I'm very high on Brett Bielema, as you guys have seen. I think he was absolutely the best coaching hire in the offseason. Right now, his Illinois Fighting Illini sit there with 4 wins. Vegas picked them to win at 3.5. I told you take the over. You listened to me. You won some money. There you go, Anthony. But they might come up a little bit short of bowl eligibility. I mean, I hope they do. Next week, they close the season with Northwestern, who's really, really struggling. So hopefully they don't upset Iowa and then beat Northwestern to get to bowl eligibility. I don't mind being wrong on that bold prediction I made. I did predict that they would get to bowl eligibility his first year. So hopefully they come up 1 game short, if you catch my drift. But senior day at Iowa, afternoon kickoff, 1 o'clock. It seems that as of right now, Spencer Petras may or may not start. He has been hurt the last 2 weeks. Alex Padilla has done an excellent job in relief. Definitely has proven himself to be worthy of being the starter from here out. Has a little bit more mobility. He is more fleet of foot. And that really has served Iowa well because their issue has been their offensive line. They've given up now in the year 27 sacks, most in the Big Ten. Very un-Iowa-like as far as offensive line, when you know how Iowa just basically, just rotates them into the NFL year in and year out, but not this year. So I think it just was maybe a better fit for them because of that offensive line and having pressure in the backfield after 2 seconds when you drop back to pass. It suits them better to have somebody who is more mobile. And I think Illinois, their game plan will be to run the ball probably 50 times against Iowa. That's what they want to do, grind it out, low scoring, ball possession. And Minnesota last week had good fortune running the ball against Iowa. So I think Illinois will try to duplicate that. But it's going to be a big-time game for Iowa to stay in the race. A game they are favored. They should win. Stand by a little bit to see who I pick winning this game. I have been saying for the last 3 weeks, I do expect Iowa will lose one more game this season. There's only 2 games left. So I know right now the anticipation is killing you. You're on the edge of your seats thinking, is he going to pick Illinois to upset Iowa? Stay tuned. So big time game for Iowa. Big time to get to, then at that point they'd be at 9-2 on the season. And I'd be really happy with that. If you remember from earlier episodes, I projected their final record would be 8-4 with a ceiling of 10-2. So either way, I mean, they win Saturday. I'm happy either way. I did better than I projected, but they went out, go 10-2. That'd be excellent. But first things first, one game at a time. And stay tuned. I'll give you more commentary and some reaction to this game next week during my Week 12 preview show. Or review show, excuse me. A little gaffe there. Week 12 review show next week. And now for Missouri. This week, Missouri hosts a reeling Florida squad. And I mentioned earlier this episode that there is also things to play for. Teams are going to be biting, scratching, clawing. See what I did there, Tigers? To get to that 6th win. Right now, both Missouri and Florida sit at 500, 5-5. Huge game there in Columbia this weekend. I actually was planning on probably going to it. I don't think that's going to happen, but I will be watching this game since it's on at 3 o'clock and Iowa's on at 1, so I'll be able to watch the majority of the entire second half of the Missouri game. So huge winner-take-all game here. It would be huge for Coach Drink and his rebuild at Missouri. Get that 6th win, develop, get more practices, try to get a 7th win, and have a winning record no matter what happens. Or you would get a winning record if you win your bowl game. Huge game. And I think Missouri has more than a fighter's chance to win. Florida, they just ended their 3-game losing streak when they beat lonely FCS Samford. But the score was 70-52. Yeah, you heard right. And that was actually at halftime. They were down 14 points. I forget what the score was at the half, but I do know it was the most points ever surrendered by Florida at the half in their history. Not just to an FCS opponent. Most points surrendered ever at home to an FCS opponent. So I don't know, is Florida really going to come out motivated? Are they going to be able to run the ball? Can they put up points like they did last week? And Missouri, coming off their most impressive, most complete, best game of the year last week over South Carolina. If you recall early in the season, their rush defense, just bad. Actually, the worst rush defense in the entire Division I landscape. That last week, though, they held South Carolina's rush attack to only 58 yards. And that is a South Carolina team that the previous week, they put up, I believe, 280 yards rushing against Florida. So maybe Missouri can duplicate that. They found something different. Or maybe Florida is going to try to use that vulnerability again and run all over the Tigers. This is a huge game. Huge game. And I think Missouri fans need to realize how big this game is. Right now, I don't think they're expecting a huge crowd. You can get very, very cheap tickets online. But if you're in town, you're in the state, flock to it. They need your support. Big time game in Missouri. So if they just clean it up defensively, if they can make enough stops against Florida to get them off the field, don't help them out, take care of the ball on offense, stop turning it over, Connor Bazelak, have no issues with their special teams, and their special teams have been excellent all year, they're going to have every chance to upset the Florida Gators, which I say that because Florida is a blue blood program. They are one of the halves in the SEC, but more specifically in Missouri's division, the East. So if you beat them, it goes a long way for recruiting. And also, if you watched yesterday's episode, I did predict that if Florida goes 6-6 and lose their bowl game, I think Dan Mullen will leave on his own choice to go to the NFL or a OC position someplace, or potentially a head coaching job. If they fail to get bowl eligible, they go 5-7, and next week they host their in-state rival Florida State. So maybe they're potentially looking ahead, looking past Missouri. Maybe this game, maybe Florida's on my trap game list this week. Stay tuned and find out. But if they do not get bowl eligible, I do believe Florida will terminate Dan Mullen. And then that would put them back. So this is a huge opportunity for Missouri to strike a blow for right now, the present and the future. So stay tuned, watch it. I'll let you know how it turned out, give you some more analysis and reaction next week on the Week 12 review show. All right. So now we get to coming up on my favorite segment. But before we get to Pick'em, and I've got a very special Pick'em this week, I want to give you my trap games of Week 12. It's a trap! Here we go, talking to Admiral Akbar. The trap games for Week 12. Usually I give you 4, sometimes 5. But this week I have 6 for you. And it really ties into kind of the narrative about so much on the line to play for. So first of all, first game I want to bring to your attention, I am going to put the Louisville Cardinals on trap alert. Louisville travels to Duke. Actually, that game is tonight on Thursday night. Louisville is at Duke. Louisville is one of those teams sitting at 5-5. Duke 3-7. So Louisville is looking to win to get bowl eligible. Duke just wants to win. I mean, it's been an awful year for David Cutcliffe at Duke. I think his long tenure might come to an end in the offseason. But I put Louisville on trap alert because next week they host their in-state rival, Kentucky. So perhaps they're looking past the lonely Blue Devils, and maybe Duke can shock them tonight. So Louisville, you are on trap alert watch. Next game, Iowa State travels to number 13, Oklahoma. Oklahoma coming off that big-time loss last week at Baylor. But next week, I'm putting Oklahoma on trap alert because next week, Oklahoma travels to their in-state rival, Oklahoma State, for the Bedlam game. So perhaps they're looking past the 6-4 Iowa State Cyclones. And quite frankly, sidebar, side note, a team that really has disappointed me this year. I had big expectations for them like a lot of people did. And here they are, 6-4. But Oklahoma might be looking past them as they come to Norman to play this week. Looking forward to the Bedlam game to try to still win the regular season and potentially get to the Big 12 title game. So Oklahoma, you're on trap alert as well. Next game is Syracuse travels to number 20, NC State. I am putting NC State on trap alert because next week NC State hosts their in-state rival, North Carolina, but also because Syracuse is sitting there at 5-5. They're going to be doing everything they can to get bowl eligible, so you better be looking out. And quite frankly, this Syracuse team, you look statistically, they've had a good year. They've had a couple really close losses. I think they have 3 losses by 1 possession, but their defense has been really solid. So Syracuse might come in there wanting to get that victory, to get to that coveted 6th win. So NC State, the Pack, you're on trap alert this week. Next game is number 11, Baylor travels to Kansas State. Already kind of mentioned this one. I'm putting you, Baylor, on trap game alert because after your big-time win last week, maybe you have a letdown game. Potentially, it is right there for this to happen. So Baylor, you're on trap alert this week. Next game, Arizona State travels to Oregon State. I am putting Oregon State on trap alert because next week they travel to their in-state rival, number 3 Oregon, in the Civil War rivalry game, one of my favorite names, by the way, because here's why that could be a big game. If Oregon loses to Utah Saturday, then Oregon State would be only 1 game behind Oregon. So if they go to Eugene and beat the Ducks, they would win the Pac-12 North. Once again, these conference races coming down to it, that's why maybe they're looking ahead to that game, but they better take care of the Sun Devils when they come calling to Corvallis this weekend first. So Oregon State, you're on trap alert. And my last team that's on trap alert, Florida coming to Missouri. That's right, I'm putting Florida on trap alert because they are favored by 9.5 points, so a 10-point favorite, which is kind of absurd to me when they're coming off their 5-5, the same record as Missouri. Maybe they're getting the blue blood bump. That's why they're favored by 10 points. But I'm putting Florida on trap alert because next week, I already said, they host Florida State. So maybe they're looking past the Tigers in sleepy Columbia this week. So Florida, you're on trap alert as well. So that's my trap games for week 12. It's a trap. Here we go. All right. Now, everybody's favorite time, everyone's favorite segment. It is time for our pick'ems for week 12. And to kind of recap, last week we are getting ready to wrap up the inaugural guest picker tournament. Last week, in an upset, Brad took on my brother Anthony. Brad came on top. He went 10-5. Anthony went 9-6. So Brad moves on. He has earned his spot in the guest picker tournament finals. He'll be taking on this week's winner as Brett steps into Thunderdome to take on my kids. That's right, the kids are still alive, making their Cinderella run. And I know some of you might be saying, Blair, come on. We know that's not fair. We know you're helping them. Okay, time out. They're 9 and 6 years old. And just to shoot that down right now that I'm helping them, let me just share this with you. Okay, 2 weeks ago, they picked Missouri to beat Georgia. Enough said. I'm not helping them, okay? It's just they have gotten this far. They took out Caleb. Now they're looking to take down Brett in Thunderdome. In this case, not 2 men, but 1 woman, 2 men enter, and either 1 or 2 will leave. We'll have to wait and see how it plays out. And I'm still, right now, in my season matchup with my former co-host, Charlie, Missouri fan number 1. We have the ongoing contest. That's getting ready to wrap up. I have a little bit of work to do to kind of bring you up on where we are. Right now, Charlie, he is up. Let's see where I got it here. So here it is. Charlie right now is sitting at 104-61. I am 99-66. He's got me by 5 games. He's looking at 63% correct. I'm right at 60. So I think we're both going to come up a little bit short of our goal, which was 70% or better before the season kicked off. But I'm going to need a couple of good weeks here to catch and overcome Charlie. So that's where we are with the season standings. Now let's get into it. Let me go ahead. Everyone's favorite time. Let me get these picks situated here. And I got a little bit of commentary from Brett as well. All right, here we go. Let me get a quick swig of water. And once again, thank you for everything, your time, for being here with me. It's an absolute pleasure for me to share my love, my passion for college football with all of you. Please like, share, subscribe, comment if there's something that I've missed, something that I've got incorrect. If there's a topic or segment you'd like me to discuss, to bring to everyone's attention, comment. Let me know. I'll be more than happy to share it on air with all of you. Let me get a quick swig. Salute. All right. So the first game on the docket this week, big time game. We have the Battle of LA. UCLA travels to USC. Big game for USC. They're sitting there at 4-5. They need to win out to get bowl eligible. Let's see what happens. And they need to win 2 of their last 3. They do have a makeup game with Cal left that was rescheduled due to COVID. Let's see how people see this game coming out. We'll start with Brett. Brett says, I'll take the team with an official head coach and a QB who has already started. If you've missed, USC their quarterback will be making his first career start in this game. Brett's going with the Bruins of UCLA. The kids, they're going with the men of Troy to fight on. Charlie, he likes UCLA. Me, I think this is going to be a good ball game, a highly contested game. It's big also for Chip Kelly, who I think his coaching hot seat has simmered a little bit, but he is absolutely not off of it. His team is 6-4, but if he loses this game to his intercity rival, that seat is going to get hot once again. But I like UCLA in this matchup. Next game, one of my key matchup games, number 10 Wake Forest travels to Clemson. Is it going to be, which unit comes out on top? Is it going to be the elite offense of Wake or the elite defense of Clemson? Who wins the day? Who comes out on top? This is a sort of David versus Goliath matchup in a roundabout way. Let's see how our pickers feel this one coming out. Brett says, I really, really want Wake to win, which I do as well, but I like Clemson winning their 4th straight. He's going with the Tigers. The kids, they also like the Tigers because they love their 4-legged friends. Charlie, he's going with Wake. Me, this was a tough one. I thought long and hard about it. I'm wavering, but I can't call an audible. I can't do any of that because I need to give everyone else the chance to do so. I wish I could, but I'm going to channel my inner Yul Brynner from the 10 Commandments. So it is said, so it shall be done. But in this case, so it is written, so it shall be done. I'm taking Clemson as well to get it done over Wake Forest. Next game, big one in the American Athletic. SMU travels to number 5 Cincinnati. Let's see how our guest pickers like this one first. Brett says, the only thing keeping me from jumping on SMU is their bad loss. Is their bad loss to Memphis? Since he hasn't been very impressive, which they haven't been, in winning and closer than it should fashion lately, and they have been. They've been winning, but haven't always been the most convincing. Or maybe they're just not that good, asks Brett. That'll be a conversation for another time. He likes SMU to cover but lose the game. SMU is an 11.5-point underdog, so he's going with Cincinnati. The kids, they also like Cincinnati. Charlie, he also likes the Bearcats. Me, I think they're too much. I'm going with Cincinnati as well. Next game on the docket. Man, this is fun. I have a really good time doing this. Next one is Kansas. That's right. I got to give them some love after their huge upset on the road as a 31-point underdog in overtime over Texas. I got to give them some love. Kansas travels to TCU. Can they make it 2 in a row on the road? I love Lance Leipold. I think that's the second best hire in the offseason for a new coach from Buffalo to Kansas. Maybe he's definitely making some progress. Let's see how we see this game playing out. Brett says, no hesitation, TCU. Kansas just got their road win for the next few years. Ouch. TCU by 3 scores. Yowza. The kids, they also like the Horned Frogs of TCU. Once again, our 4-legged friends, they're going with the purple of TCU. Charlie, he also likes TCU. I've watched this Kansas team get more competitive lately, challenging to the brink Oklahoma, and then they go ahead and pull the upset over Texas, who's in an absolute free fall, but still, I'm not taking anything away from them. I'm taking the Jayhawks. That's right. Rock Chalk 2 in a row for the Jayhawks. I'm taking them. Next game, the only matchup of ranked this week in the SEC. Big one, number 21 Arkansas. Razorbacks Pig Sooie travel to number 2 Alabama. Let's see how we see this game playing out. Brett says, I really wish Arkansas could keep it close, but I don't see it happening. Bama wins going away. He likes Alabama. The kids, they also like Alabama. Charlie, roll tide, Bama. Me, I think Arkansas will punch them in the mouth early, keep it close, but Alabama does what they do. We all like the Crimson Tide. Next game, number 11 Baylor at Kansas State, one of my key matchup and trap games. Let's see what people think. This game, Brett says, coming off a huge win over Oklahoma, Baylor might be primed for a letdown. Kansas State is going for their 5th win in a row, which is impressive, and they are. Both need a win to keep conference title hopes and conference title game appearance alive. But he'll go with the road dog Baylor. And that's right, Baylor is, Kansas State is favored in this game right now via Vegas. So Brett's going with Baylor. The kids, they're going with Kansas State. They like the purple, fear the purple. They're going with the Wildcats. Charlie, he's going with Baylor. Me, I really want to take Kansas State. I wanted to. But I think Bohannon, the QB at Baylor, and Coach Dave Aranda, they found something. I'm going with the Baylor Bears as well. Next game, Virginia Tech at Miami. Big game here. Both teams sit at 5-5. Virginia Tech just fired, let Justin Fuente go this week. Manny Diaz is absolutely on the hot seat. He's coaching for his job. Each one of these teams need that 6th win in the biggest and worst ways. Let's see how this game comes out. Brett says average versus average. So average Joes versus average Joes. There's no average Joes versus Globo Jim in this case. Go ahead, make your jokes, Mr. Jokey, joke maker. But he says the Hurricanes win this one. Brett's going with Miami. The kids, they're going with Virginia Tech, the Hokies. They like, once again, you're seeing a pattern here with the kids. They're going with the Hokies. Charlie, he's going with Miami at home. Me, I think the Hurricanes are too much. I like Miami as well. Next game is number 7 Michigan State at number 4 Ohio State. A big-time game in the Big Ten. Let's see how this one plays out. Brett simply says Ohio State continues to roll, so he likes Ohio State big. The kids, they're going with Ohio State as well. Charlie, he's going with the Bucks. Me, I think Michigan State is going to keep it within 19 points. I love Canine, and I love how people there in East Lansing have given Kenneth Walker III that nickname, Canine, because he's number 9. I love it. He's my Heisman Trophy finalist as of now. That could change depending on how his performance in this game goes Saturday. But for now, I'm taking Ohio State as well. I think they just got too much that offense clicking on all cylinders. Next game, one of my matchup games, UAB, key matchups. UAB travels to number 22 UTSA, the Roadrunners. Let's see what we got here. Brett says the run continues. UTSA, he's taking the Roadrunners. The kids, they're going with the Blazers. They like the upset of UTSA. They're taking UAB. Charlie, he's going with the Roadrunners. Me, I think they continue to roll on down the road. I like UTSA. I'm taking them. Go Roadrunners. Next, now we get to our spotlight games of the week, and each and every week, this is what I do. I always pick Missouri and Iowa when they're playing. I always select one academy game of the week that includes Army, Navy, or Air Force to give our fighting forces the proper salute and attention they deserve. I always select one non-Power 5 matchup game of the week, a big spotlight game for them. I always select the FCS spotlight game of the week because great football is played at the lower level of Division I, and then the spotlight game of the week. So let's start off with next two, the black and golds this week. How do I see our boys playing out. Let's see how we all see that coming. Brett says on this one, Florida rushes for 300 yards, wins on the road. Yikes. So he's thinking Florida's going to come out a little bit more motivated, a little bit more inspired. Hopefully that's not the case. Whew, that's a lot of rushing yards, but we did see Missouri do that earlier this year. So Brett's taking Florida. The kids, they're going with Truman. They're going with Missouri. Charlie, he likes Missouri in the upset. Me, I am so torn on this game because I know what I saw last week from both sides of the spectrum. Missouri playing their best game of the year, look really good, much better. Florida laying an egg even though they got the victory. But do they come out more inspired? Can they continue to maybe manipulate and take advantage of the Missouri rush defense? Because they can put up points. It just comes down to, will Missouri make enough stops? I am so torn on this game, but I'm going with Florida. Sorry, Mizzou guys. I really want to take them, but I'm going to go with Florida in this game. Next game, Illinois at Iowa, number 17 Iowa. Brett, this one says, not so fast. Iowa wins in a low-scoring game that puts the game of football back 50 years. Right now, the over-under is 38.5. And if I was a betting man, once again, I would go the under. So maybe he's right. So he likes Iowa. The kids, they like Herky and the Hawkeyes to get it done. Charlie, he also likes Iowa. Me, I think the Hawks do enough. It's senior day. Their good season continues. I like Iowa as well. We're all on the Iowa train. Next game is UMass at Army, the Academy game of the week. Brett says Army marches on. The kids, they're going with Army. Charlie, he's also going with the Black Knights. Me, I salute you. Army gets it done. We're all on the Army train. Next game is the non-Power 5 spotlight game of the week. It's Louisiana. The Ragin' Cajuns travel to Liberty to take on the Flames. A battle of two quarterbacks that maybe you know. If not, you definitely will. Malik Willis of Liberty. He will be playing next year in the NFL on Sundays. Levi Lewis of Louisiana probably will be drafted, maybe an undrafted contract. He'll have every chance at the next level. Going to be an entertaining, awesome game. Let's see how we see this one playing out. Brett says, even matchup of solid teams goes to the team with the best player. And to him, that is QB for Liberty, Malik Willis. So he likes Liberty, 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 Liberty. My kids, they also like Liberty as well. Charlie, he likes the Ragin' Cajuns. Me, I think the Cajuns are just a little bit more battle-tested. I like the Ragin' Cajuns on the road to pull off a big-time victory. Now we get to the FCS Spotlight Game of the Week, and we are going. It is the Nerd Bowl, the Dork Bowl, or what I like to say, the Jealous Bowl, because I will never be a Yale or a Harvard man. I wasn't, I never will be. Hopefully my kids will be. Maybe this will be their first step to getting there. They can win the guest picker tournament. So Harvard travels to Yale, the Clemson versus the Bulldogs. Let's see how we see this game playing out at the FCS level within the Ivy League. Brett says Yale lost to UConn, which they did. UConn is bad, which they are. He'll take Harvard. So he's going with the Crimson. My kids, they're taking the Yale Bulldogs because we're a dog family. Charlie, he's also going with Harvard. Me, I agree with everything Brett said, except not taking Harvard. Yes, Yale lost to UConn, and UConn is bad, but I'm going with Yale at home. And last one, my spotlight game of the week, number 3 Oregon at number 23 Utah. Battle of heavyweights, a potential precursor to the Pac-12 title game. Let's see how we see this game going. Brett says, Utah is perfect at home, and the Ducks, with the exception of the Week 2 matchup in Columbus, have not impressed on the road. Utah knocks off the number 3 team in the country. He's going with the Utes, the 2 Utes. My kids, they're going with the Ducks. They're taking them. It was a tough decision for them, but they're going with the Ducks to keep their playoff hopes alive. Charlie, he's also taking Utah. Me, you know who I'm taking, the team that I predicted would win the Pac-12 title preseason. I'm taking Utah as well, which that then sends Cincinnati into the top 4 of the college football playoff rankings if this plays out and Cincinnati wins. So that's it. That's my episode for today, my Week 12 preview show. Once again, thank you for all you do, your support, your viewership, your questions, your comments, your likes, your shares. Please get the word out there. Like, share, subscribe. Let me know how I'm doing. Until next week, enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy the football. Have a great weekend. There's not much of it left to enjoy. The football, that is. Don't take it for granted. And I'll see you early next week. Until then, have a good one. And thank you for joining me on the Touchdown Black and Gold vlog. See you next week. Bye.